Hey guys, John at CES Motorsport here again. Just wanted to follow up on the 2023 manual trans Supra that we had here originally. In the previous video, you guys saw us turning this car up, taking it a little bit to the next level with our full bolt-on package. And customer also wanted to do the upgraded meth injection system that we offer on stock turbo with the E-blend tuning. So we definitely were able to maximize the power potential out of the car. She ended up making roughly around 530 wheel and close to 600 torque. These numbers were obviously approaching the limits of the stock clutch in the car. Customer wanted to go ahead and upgrade the clutch if possible. Reached out to Clutch Masters. They have the FX1000 clutch upgrade for these cars now. The cool thing about the FX1000 clutch is they also just released a new hydraulic bearing upgrade that complements the FX1000 clutch. You guys know the FX1000 is one of their stronger clutches, one of the best clutches that they make. It's in a lot of the big horsepower Supras, supposedly can handle up to 1100 torque at the tires. A little bit overkill for the kind of power that we're making, but easily a clutch that you can grow into if you ever did decide you want to build a motor, make much more power out of these cars like we've been doing. So in this video, you're actually going to see us installing the new FX1000 clutch into the car. And once we have that all done and all the driving completed to get all the break-in miles, we're going to follow up with another video with the final numbers that we end up putting on the dyno, plus some additional driving impressions once we can really get into her and see what this clutch feels like on the street and also the kind of power that she's going to handle. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a win-win combo for a lot of customers who want to increase the power output out of these cars and have a viable clutch solution that's going to have great clutch pedal feel and also have the upgraded hydraulic bearing, which removes a lot of the mechanical components that are a little bit weaker and are plastic that are in the clutch right now. All that gets removed for a much more stronger solution that I think will be beneficial to everybody wanting to look for a really nice upgrade on these. So I hope everybody enjoys the video. A lot of information in here, a lot of good stuff, and let's get right to it.
I'm Zach over here at CES Motorsport. We're working on this manual Supra today. We got the transmission already out. We're putting new clutch in it. We got the world's first Clutch Masters FX1000. So the factory clutch is a single disc. It runs out at about 500 torque-ish. So this one's going to be good for about 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. So this is a twin disc, so you got a lot more friction material to work with. With the package, obviously you got your clutch, your twin disc clutch. It comes with a single mass flywheel. And then what's special about this setup is we have the hydraulic throwout bearing. So that's actually going to replace your slave cylinder and your factory throwout bearing. So this is basically going to compensate for this new clutch. So when you have your factory clutch, it's a kind of soft pedal. It's like easy to drive for just about anybody who wants to drive a car on the street. So when you upgrade, you have limited amount of pressure that you're going to be able to apply to this one using the factory hydraulic system. You actually have a heavier pressure plate as well. You have proper clamping force and you have proper holding for the torque. So the factory system, hydraulic system, is only really meant for the factory clutch. So we're going to upgrade that. So this is revalved. It's going to compensate for the additional pressure that the clutch pressure plate needs in order for that clutch to fully disengage and to work properly. So this is your factory slave cylinder. It's all hydraulic. Your master cylinder's mounted inside on the clutch pedal, and that just transfers hydraulic fluid through the line and basically pushes this pin out. And what happens is when that pin moves out, it actually just pushes on this fork. It's constantly riding on this pivot pin, so it's actually clipped in and sitting on it. And then you have your pin pushed out here, and that just pushes it out, so you have a bit of leverage in order to disengage that pressure plate. So we're just replacing that with this system, and this is just going to ride on a platform, so you can actually take this out. So that's a separate piece entirely, and this is a bearing that just spins, so it can actually ride on here, so then that way it just spins, because this whole assembly is going to be spinning inside the transmission. And this platform is hydraulically actuated, and that will then push this whole thing out. And that's how your slave cylinder works. So the generic system is really only designed to work with the factory clutch and that pressure plate. It's pretty soft, and they're also ratcheting or diaphragm style pressure plates. So they are automatically adjusting, whereas when you go to a heavier clutch or a heavier pressure plate for higher torque and higher clamping forces, they're usually non-adjustable, and you also lose a bit of leverage inside the pressure plate itself, so it takes way more force in order to actually disengage this. So a lot of times when you put aftermarket clutches in cars, it'll actually destroy or slowly destroy that factory hydraulic system because it's too much pressure for that system to overcome. So you have to upgrade that a little bit when you go to an extreme clutch like this one, like this 1,000 horsepower. Cool. Or any twin disc in a lot of situations. Sometimes you can kind of get away with it. Sometimes it's better to be safe, to just over-engineer it and overcompensate for the clutch. So this goes in here. So there's a plate that goes in here that we've already removed that's held in by 3 bolts. And that's your input shaft bearing, and you have just a seal that rides on it. It's kind of similar to your main, like your main seal on an engine, like your front and rear main seal. So this is just going to take place of that cover. So that's just going to slide in right there. And as you can see, that's a nice snug fit. And you're just going to center that. And we actually have new hardware. Cool. And we're just going to make sure to Loctite that in place because that sees a lot of heat and vibration. So we want to make sure nothing's going to come loose. All right, so as you can see, we just took the flywheel off and we actually took the clutch off as well. So we're actually swapping it over. This is part of the new Clutch Masters kit. And as you can see, there's a big difference in height here. So that's really just to accommodate the fact that this is a much taller clutch kit. And it's hard to convey over video, but this is a rather heavy unit, whereas this is easily half the weight. So you got aluminum plate, aluminum flywheel with a steel insert for your friction material. And this is a dual mass. You can see how there's a lot of slop in there. So that makes it smoother for whenever you're changing gears. So you're not like, oh, okay, where's the engagement point? And, so, and it just kind of lurches on you. This will take up that slop. So it's way smoother on gear changes. This, you're not gonna have that, but this is one solid piece. So this is gonna grab a lot more. It's gonna hold a lot more power. And it's also gonna spin a lot easier. So your throttle response is gonna be a little bit better. So flip downshifts or even just low end throttle response is just gonna be so much better because you have less rotating mass.
John here, CES Motorsport again, revisiting the manual trans Supra. We are back after installing the FX1000 clutch by Clutchmasters with the upgraded hydraulic release bearing that we had talked about in the previous videos that we had done on the car. And now we're excited because we finally get to test this sucker out a little bit, see what she's going to do, see what kind of power she's going to put on the dyno, and see how she feels on the street once we're finally able to open her up a bit now that we've got all the braking mileage completed and can really turn her up. Stay tuned for the next couple of videos that we're going to be releasing on this car. Can't wait to get your impressions on this new clutch upgrade, and we'll see you guys on the next one.